Hello chicos, chicas! Today we are going to visit planet Ivanchuk. As you can probably tell already from the thumbnail, we are going to cover the Ivanchuk Rapport game and one more little surprise. But before we jump into that, just a little summary. So far everything is going according to my predictions. India is unstoppable. Erigaisi is scoring like a madman, and to my greatest excitement, Hungary is still doing really well and still in the leading pack on full score. So exciting rounds ahead. As for the Ivanchuk Rapport game, well, this was a special treatment. I mean, it's super fun to watch Ivanchuk playing extremely well and then, you know, make some absolutely inexplicable mistakes next game, then back up again playing like the god he used to be, and then some weird mistakes again. Now, to be fair, Rapport definitely did give him a tough game for sure, and lots of questions were asked from Ivanchuk that he needed to answer. And as I will highlight in this analysis, his idea about wandering around the middle of the board with his king was nowhere near as outlandish as it might have appeared. So let's dive right into it. So the opening was a Grünfeld, which by the way is one of the most theory heavy openings you can possibly think of, and as such you would probably rightly think, what on earth does that have to do with Rapport? Well, he actually lived up to his reputation, because on move 6 he already deviated from any known theory and played a rather random bishop g4 move and just did his usual stuff and then carried on in the spirit of the Grünfeld. And the best part, of course, and that's why Rapport is an incredible genius, it's totally sound, no worries. Bishop takes, queen takes, knight e4. All of these are stock standard Grünfeld operations. The idea is to put a lot of pressure on the long diagonal, the knight, the pawn, especially since the dark squared bishop has been shut out by the e3 pawn, so there is no way to go back. Often the dark squared bishop on this diagonal becomes a useless piece. For example, takes, 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 and bishop b2 looks like $1 million. Queen a5 check already forces the king to give up castling, so that looks like a red hot mess. Knight d5 is also looking a little bit dicey with queen a3. This is the subtlety that needed to be seen, because knight was hanging, queen was hanging. And after rook c2 f5, we have got a really wild game ahead with e5 and so on. Black has got a lot of initiative here. Anyway, so obviously the cd was played, takes, takes, and queen d5. Super unique material imbalance has occurred where black has the two knights against white's two bishops, but white is lacking development, the pawns are wrecked, and there is a little mate in one threat floating around. So rook d1 played. No questions there. Queen e6, rook d4, knight c5, bishop c4. Ivanchuk is catching up in development. Rapport in turn has restored material parity. And this is the point, folks, when things begin to spiral out of hand like mad. Rapport plays the super obvious queen b5, denying the castling from Ivanchuk's side and potentially floating a checking idea depending on how white reacts. And this is where things went sideways. According to the machine, bishop h6 was the preferred move. Logical, really, because it kicks the rook and it can't move because of mate in 2, right? Obviously, knight d3 was the intention from Rapport's end. However, this time round, you are going to witness an absolutely breathtaking king journey with a very different outcome. Watch. Check. King takes. Knight d7. Almost identical story to the game. And now we have got two checks threatened. Well, in particular, of course, knight e5, because that is also... Is it? Am I hearing some whistle sound? Yeah, obviously, because this is a fork. And so that's a a super important threat. Best is rook b4. And now there are 2 lines. It seems fine. And they are both equally amazing. So if I go knight e5, then king e4. You take my queen, I take your queen. White is a piece up. Not playable. So we go queen c3, hanging queen, hanging rook. No worries. I can attack your queen again. Now, yeah, at this point, queen b3, bishop b3, knight f3, and then either king or pawn. I don't think it makes a big difference. Engine likes king. White is definitely pressing there. In fact, probably clearly winning with the 2 bishops. So best is to still try to go for some checkmate ideas. But, now the knight, excuse me, is pinned. And after queen c2 check, we take on e5. And lo and behold, we have the exact same story. Ivanchuk's king is on e5. But unlike in the game, he's winning. There is absolutely nothing to hurt that king. It's really, really incredible. Likewise, if I go to c5 here, which is the better of the 2 checks, by the way, then king c4. Isn't that crazy? And that way the king escaped here. Now we go here, the king comes here. Very, very cool mirror effect, chameleon effect from the problem composing world. And yeah, bishop f8, rook d1, and yeah, we don't have enough. Not that the rook is glued to here, because otherwise queen f7 check is wreaking havoc. We don't even have a meaningful check. And once again, the white king reigns supreme. What happened in the game instead? Well, that was very tragic. So Ivanchuk, instead of playing the correct... And by the way, these lines are absolutely crazy. So you can't really throw a shade at anyone for not seeing these. But instead of the slightly more logical bishop h6, he went with a4. And now the landscape is going to be drastically different. The piece sack is the same. The knight move is incoming. It's better to come from here than from the d7 in order to retain the ability to pin the bishop per game. Rook c4, rook d8. That's why we didn't want the knight on d7. It's en route to c5 either way, but from d7 we would have shielded the spin. Bishop e5 and e6. Now that is a move that takes a fair bit of cojones to play, because of course it does look like we're getting mated on the long diagonal, but definitely Rapport calculated this exchange sack. And yeah, this is absolutely decisive. So the main difference here between this line and the previous one is that black managed to get here with the smallest possible material investment, that is piece, not pawns, which is an exchange. That's nothing. That's like whatever, can't even feel it, don't bother me. By the way, queen e5 was also very problematic on account of queen f2, when yeah, g2 is hanging, f5 is pending. It looks catastrophic. But here too, after king e5, queen e2 was really, really cool. And after rook d4, when all pieces are beautifully lined up, Rapport goes, yeah, let's go, baby. And now, of course, knight c6 check is threatened. And if I'm foolish enough to run the rook somewhere else, then knight e7 is gonna fork king and queen. So Ivanchuk opted for rook d6 to cover both knight checks. And now Rapport is weaving the checkmate net with remarkable efficiency. At this point, Ivanchuk completely collapsed with queen f4 and resigned even before receiving f6, which would have won the queen immediately. But after the much better rook d1, knight c6, rook takes and queen takes, he still would have had 3 pawns free hanging at the same time. And yeah, that king on e5 really wants to be on g1. And even then, this would be a tough ask to hold this with white. King on e5, yeah, nah, this is not gonna cut it. So a super interesting game that, you know, there's a saying that there is only a tiny, tiny margin that separates a fool from a genius. And I don't mean to say that about Ivanchuk. I mean to suggest that the difference between him and playing a4 instead of bishop h6 was, you know, the difference between king e5 looking like a joke versus actually winning the game for white. So sometimes nuance is decide chess games in a very, very odd way. And then, no nuances here, friends. This was Carnage City. We are joining the game Kadrich against Vincent Kaymer. Well into the middle game, Kadrich sacrificed pawns followed by a piece for a strong attack. And I wanted to show you the conclusion of this game because this was marvelous. Black plays King H8, H4. Obviously, King H8 was to get out of the pin, so the knight could drop back to E6 to cover the checkmate. Queen G6, all kinds of bullying is taking place around the king. D5, kicking the defender. Knight G7, Queen H6 check, King G8. And this is the point where White finishes off the game with an absolutely remarkable idea. One that I don't recall ever seeing before. When I saw Rook D3 in this position, I was really confused because I thought to myself, well, dude, you're just trading your knight off and then the Rook is going to defend everything on the 7th. What you doing, bruv? And then Brav gave me a very, very quick and sudden reminder of why I am sitting here and he is sitting at the Chess Olympiad playing against the best players in the world. Because Brav went, oh, no worries, Rook E7. I can do better. Rook E7. Sacking both rooks for the record because this is hanging in directly, this is hanging directly. Now, I can't obviously check this down because it's mate. But a really cool line is that nor can I take this on account of Rook G3 and it's mate next. Hello? Ouch! And so after Rook E7, Kaymer went Rook F to F7. But these rooks are rampant. Rook E8, Rook F8. And once again, one rook hanging is not good enough. We need two. Definitely two. And that's it. Just an absolutely spectacular finish. And once again, I've never seen this idea before of, you know, attacking the king with just the heavy pieces in such aggressive fashion. And yeah, it worked like charm. This was one of the biggest upsets of the round, by the way, almost 200 rating point gap. Yeah, so that was my recap for round 5. Yep, round 6 tonight. Let's see how we go. Things are looking dicey, by the way, in more than one way, because there is a terrible flood on the Danube, which already has hit Austria, which is the western neighbor of Hungary's, and the river flows into Hungary via Austria, and Austrians have already suffered the consequences of the flood real big time, and inevitably it's going to hit Hungary and Budapest, and actually multiple teams are staying at Margaret Island, which the mayor of the city already indicated that it's likely they will close down the island because of the flooding. So even the Chess Olympiad, by the looks of things, will be impacted by a natural disaster too, which is really sad, but I hope that there will be some sort of resolution. And now with this little side story done dusted, we are going to call it a day. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to sub, to like, to leave a comment, and I will see you in the next video soon. Once again, thanks for watching.